I want to say some things he said I might agree with a little bit. Some things I didn't agree with so much. But I'll say R.P. Charlie Kirk. I mean, did it honestly really affect my day like it did other people? Not really. Uh, it just sucks that, in this time of the state that we're in this country, in this time, that when you have an opinion, you know you can die for it. But I will say that, especially in my community that I'm in and in other communities, I'm sure that, there's definitely a consequence for the things that come out your mouth. You know what I mean? If I say some vulgar things to somebody, if somebody feels like I disrespected them, there could be some type of physical consequence that could happen to me, or just anybody. Something could happen to my life. My family, whatever. I mean, that's just how the world goes. So, am I shocked that this happened? No. I consider him basically like a YouTube influencer because that's the only time I really seen him. But, you got Shapiro and other people speaking out, and, they can continue to go to these schools. You know what I mean? Me personally, I wouldn't. Hey, call me a coward, call me whatever. My family's too important, and I wouldn't come keep speaking to the masses about different topics that would lead to my demise. I look at this Charlie Kirk thing, I'm not surprised for it. I look at it as an example of what may happen to others if they keep doing these speeches and these debates. Some people that you're talking to when you speak to the public and the masses like that, some people don't have the mental capacity to accept the fact that your views aren't theirs and that there is no one way. You know what I mean? You have a right to have your own opinion. But at the end of the day, when you walk into the kitchen and there's a fire, don't be surprised if you get burnt. I mean, Trump got shot. People can say, oh, it's fake, it was conspiracy, it was this, it was that, and it wasn't real. That's all cool and fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, Trump did get shot. Anybody can get touched. Like I said, my biggest thing I want to say is when you have an opinion, you should be able to voice it. You should be able to use your platform. You know what I mean? You shouldn't have to die for it. But at the same time, like I said, I guess there is consequences for what you say, And so there's a lot of conspiracies going on. People don't know really what all is the truth, what isn't, what ain't. It's a very touchy topic. This is part one. Like I said, am I surprised? Not really at all. Because, when you look at anybody that can control the masses like that, whether it's Malcolm X, whether it's Martin Luther King, just anybody, that can control the masses, speaks their opinion unapologetically, look what happens to them in this country. You know what I mean? I will say this, anybody that's at these colleges or anybody that's going on these debates, you really got to look into your inner circle. He had security in this happen. You don't know if this is an inside job. There's just so many different leads, conspiracies going on out there. Like I said, RIP to him. Didn't agree with him with everything. Don't feel like he deserved to die. But hey, am I shocked? No, I'm not. Reality with WAP. I'm out.